Hey guys, you should be watching this as your second video from the first. If you turn to this page in your booklet, which is structuring training sessions, it does just finish off the last dash point, and I just wanted to do this in isolation. So this information is purely just background knowledge about how we could prepare our athletes both physically, so those performance needs and those fitness and skill needs. So when you are thinking about that as an initial consideration, the training sessions need to be safe, relevant, balanced, both between the skill and the fitness, structured for allowing practice and improvement, and familiar routine but allowing flexibility and variety. So coaches must plan so that the skills, which is the ability to perform the essentials of the sport, as well as their conditioning, their psychological well-being, and their tactical, so understanding what to do with those skills and when to use them effectively, all needs to be balanced during the training sessions. We should ensure how long the athletes have to recover, whether they've got a short period of time or they're quite relaxed. Some athletes will train twice a day, so it's important to think about when we're going to use this type of training based on where they are in competition. So below is just some information about 3 codes of football and how they may actually prepare their athletes leading up to competition. So I'm going to go through this really quickly because we're going to revisit this. So in the traditional model, you can see that there's divided into weeks, the days of the week, and AM and PM. They might rest, then they might do skill. Tuesday is both weights and skill. We've got more skill, there's a bit of fitness. We've got weights again, skill. We're resting. Why? Because there's a match on Saturday, and then we might do some type of recovery session. So this is a traditional model. The funnel model used by those teams basically double teams some of those activities, so weights and skill. Then in the afternoon we'll do some more skills and running, more skills. Then we have a bit of a rest because weights do require a bit of time to recover from. We do weights and skill again. There's some fitness. Resting on Thursday, running, and then we rest again because there's a match. These are done within competition and not sort of during our planning or pre-season. The AFL model, again, you can read through that. You can see there's a couple of times that rest is needed, so these athletes might train really hard. And the interesting thing in here is that during this mode of competition or in season, there's not too much fitness because they should have got that all before the beginning of the season starts. So let's have a look at scheduling of events and competition. So the initial planning consideration is also when athletes will be participating in particular events and or competitions, and that's essential to know before we start planning. Okay, so that's something that we put into place. Okay, these are the things I need to know so that my planning can work around those. So planning would be affected by the structure of the competition. So some athletes would have a game every single week. So their planning, like what you saw just before, would be impacted by when they play their game. Also the phase of competition that we're in. Are we in pre-season, so before competition starts? Are we in the competition, or are we post-season? Okay, so that will have an impact on our planning. Depending on where you are in the season will depend on how much fitness, how much skill, tactics you will do around those. Any special events that the athlete is planning on doing or the team is planning on doing. So think about rugby league, and you've got things like State of Origin. That plays a big part because those players will leave their team, their club team, and then go and play for their state. You also have Australian competitions as well, where they will play against New Zealand. So that's another special event that needs to be considered, that needs to be thought about during that initial planning phase, so we can work out our training and where we need to kind of peak and where we need rest. Availability of resources, what do we have available to us in terms of training facilities, athletes, the gyms, etc. Motivation and attitudes of our athletes, are they elite or are they amateur? That will play a big part in what their motivations and attitudes are. The demands of the sport, whether it's the physicality of the sport, the fitness levels of the sport, the mental toughness or psychological impact as well of the sport. So if it's something that requires a lot of concentration, or if there's high levels of pressure, that will all play a part. And we go into a little bit further detail of climate. So our annual plan needs to be built around these specific events or sports to ensure that we get the best performance. If we're not planning for this particular event, we might peak too early, or we're not fit enough for that event and we bum out. Okay. So highlighting events on a calendar, a yearly calendar, helps to basically plan our training effectively and make sure that our skills and our performance needs are met before we start that competition or before we start that that event. So for example, a team in a team sport competition will want to reach the finals, and we need to make sure that throughout the year we're adapting our training to ensure that we're peaking at the right times but not going too early. We're recovering from injuries, you know, and we're able to kind of keep going and hit the best performance when we need it in the finals. Our training plan needs to reflect the schedule, so not to overwork the athlete, overtrain them, or even undertrain them as well. So it takes a lot of planning to think about all these things and do them effectively. So our training volume, so how much training we do, also needs to be managed. So here's some questions about tennis, and this is a really interesting one. You can also have a look at pdhp.net. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Because they also have that as well, and they can, hopefully, there it goes, you can push on it and it will enhance it. So you can have a look. What you need to do is you need to work out what of your events. So January, we've just had that, Australian Open, and you can have a look where they are in terms of the type of climate that they might be in. May, we have the French Open, okay. Sorry. June, we've got Wimbledon, June and July, and then in September we have the US Open, sorry. So when you think about this, this is a planning, this is their events, and it goes all the way from January through to September. So it's 9 months of the year, and if they're wanting to play all these events, they have to really prepare, because you look at the French Open here and then Wimbledon, they've literally got 2 weeks apart. So if you think about, you know, you've played all these games, you make it to the final, you win it, you're Federer or you're Djokovic or you're Nadal, and then you've got to recover for 2 weeks and then go back into another competition. So in that initial decision right at the beginning of your training year, you have to decide whether you're actually going to play all the Grand Slams or if you're going to skip one of these to make sure you prepare for the other one. So these are things that you have to consider to make sure that you're well prepared, that you're not overtrained. And you see that sometimes that athletes will not end up being able to compete because they've got that injury that hasn't recovered well. So what I'd like you to do, now I've got to try and go back, sorry. I want you to again read the information on pdhp.net, watch the video that he's put out, and then fill in the information about elite and recreational differences in terms of scheduling of events. I mean, not too difficult when you think about the training load of our elite athletes and also someone who's like a weekend warrior, but you need to write that down. Sorry, all over the place at the moment. You need to write those down in your book. There's the questions here, okay. Oh look, sorry, I'm just going all over the shop. I'm looking for my PowerPoint and now I can't find it again. Alrighty, no, I don't know where it is. I've lost it. Okay, so if you just, here it is. Apologies, guys. Apologies. Okay, so I've just read through all that information about your schedule of event. You can read through it again if you want a bit more information. I want you to pause the video and complete those questions in your booklet, please.